Orthotic Chips, your Chiappetta shoes. This is a workshop live. Today we got an F19 foot type. Relatively good structure for a flatter foot, fair amount of pronation, a little bit of pronation and rear foot valgus in the heel, and a medium amount of forefoot varus in the toe line. So when we're dealing with a forefoot like this, there's usually a fair amount of splaying and abducting. The problem with this customer's foot right now is that he's getting a lot of consistent nerve pain, irritation, metatarsalgia across the whole first through fifth metatarsal in that area. Now, when we're dealing with that, F19 feet, there's usually a fair amount of splaying and pronation. Now, again, structurally speaking, this foot has a little bit of abduction, nice even gait, but a lot of pronation there. So, when we're dealing with a situation like this, he's had a pair of custom orthotics for quite a long time, and we had a whole modification on there, primarily just targeting the whole midfoot section from the vents all the way down to the heel, tapered up a little bit. This is more of a broad approach to the situation. Now, the orthotic itself has the nice amount of arch contour, so I don't think we need to worry about the medial arch or adding a scaphoid pad at the moment. What we're going to do today is we're going to clean these up. We're going to change this from a broad approach to a lot more targeted support. And first off today, we're going to take this over to the grinder. We're going to remove this piece. F19 foot type, metatarsalgia, really consistent, been a while. These helped, but really weren't taking away the pain. We do have a neuropathy, lack of sensation in the toes. Circulation seems to be good, not diabetic, and hopefully, I think with dialing in some of the support that we do here today, we should reduce some of that nerve metatarsalgia pain with longer walks. So let's take you over to the grinder. From the center of the heel, tapered up, right at the base, through this whole area, kind of like a belly pad that I've done before. With what we're going to do today, we're going to do a T-port met pad with a longitudinal arch, but much more dialed in. We're going to double up from 3 millimeters, add another 3 millimeters on the met pad there. We're going to add a little cushion for the forefoot here too. So we remove the piece. I got to hit that with the grinder 2 more seconds. Okay, so again, customers waiting on this. We want to move modifications as quickly as possible. Now, this F19 foot metatarsalgia, he had been wearing the Ghosts, got a wider foot too, and he's wearing the appropriate width. A lot of times metatarsalgia, people don't get measured nowadays, and the problem with wider feet and forefoot issues is that oftentimes the foot is getting squished on the inside of the shoe. So if the width isn't proper, that can be a cause of nerve pain or generalized bony pain into the forefoot area too. Now, with this piece, I have 3mm cushion cord. It's a cork and rubber combination I use all the time for my modifications. It should provide a really good amount of support. Now it's the same material we had on there before, but again, I'm dialing it in a little bit closer to the middle section of the longitudinal arch and across the ball of the foot. The last pad was probably a little too far back to really be impacting the metatarsals the way I would want it to. So we're bringing it forward just a bit. So if you can see, old pad went to about here. We're bumping that up about 3/8 of an inch. So from a spacing standpoint, it is really important from an effectiveness aspect to target the metatarsals as best as possible. You never want a met pad to be directly on the knuckles of the feet. You should be approximately 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch behind the first and the fifth apex. So if you look at the contour of that, we're about 1/4 of an inch behind it. So now we're going to be working on this. Then at the same time, I'm looking at adding a little extra cushion to that forefoot area. We're going to do that second as a part of a second step. So we've been working with the ghosts. We have again a wider foot, 11.5 40 width here. Customer's an active person, you know, he's out and about on a daily basis. I don't believe we have any specific exercise routine, but when we're dealing with metatarsalgia, oftentimes it kind of like a whole ball of foot. So we're really targeting from a support standpoint that middle section of the foot. Now, an F19 foot oftentimes can benefit from extra scapular because if the foot is pronating too much, we want to stabilize that midfoot bone range there by adding material. Looking at the orthotic and seeing the shape of what we have here, the impression, the process that we had, the starting shape seems pretty good. He did complain his knees are problematic, but in assessing his gait, it's not like we had a really bad genuine valgus situation. He was pretty even, not knocking, he's walking pretty evenly. So gait assessment wise, we're moving pretty cleanly. So we have our first step here. We're going to get this applied. Second step, we're going to add a little extra cushion on the forefoot, and then we're going to do one little addition on the metatarsal area. For the met pad, the second piece, I'm actually going to switch it up so it's a little bit softer. We're going to use sponge rubber. So this is the same thing, just without the fork in it. This is what you oftentimes see with you oftentimes see this material used for adjustable heel lifts for people that have leg length discrepancies. Common usage of this material here. So, get this cut out. Just looking at bumping up that front metatarsal area. And with this second layer, it's another 3mm. When we're trimming this down, we're going to dial it back and we're really targeting that second, third, and fourth buckle of the foot. So typically try to get everything done in less than 2 steps. We want to respect the customer's time, but we're doing the modification. We want to keep it around 20 minutes or so. Maybe 2 steps to add the other wait time to dry. So I'm trying to keep this movement here. F19 foot type is relatively common. We see a lot. It's a flatter foot, which is really good structure to it. There's not too much pronation. It doesn't look like the ankles and knees are really rolling in too much. And you know, when we look at feet, there's all different kinds of feet in the world, and there's no such thing as the perfect foot. When we're dealing with foot pain, we see great-looking feet that you know you can't take 2 steps without excruciating pain. We see awful-looking feet that get around fine. A lot of times they're diabetic and they don't feel anything. That probably helps, but you know what we have is all relative to what we feel.
job as a mechanic in this process is to always respect people's, feelings. I don't have your feet on my body, so I have to be able to take what you say and translate it to a plausible solution. That's what we do here. So custom orthotics, I would argue, we make the best in the country, and it's not just the manufacturing that we do, but it is the process, what we're doing right here, and how we're adjusting these on the fly for people that have issues. So, got this first piece on there. Alright. Now I'm going to take these to the grinder. We're just going to go do a little tapering. And we're going to get that second phase on next. So I'll take you over to the grinder. Top down here. Alright, so we got that tapered up nicely. I am going to clean these off with acetone. Acetone's really tough on your hands, so you gotta be careful about that. But, looking at this process here, this should help out significantly. Now, when we're managing somebody's reaction, anytime that you are, I'm going to take this, hit it with acetone. This cleanses, deodorizes, and the heat. EVAs are closed cell foam, so they respond to heat nicely.